What's up, my wizards? It's Dev. I'm back again for another top 7 video today, and we're going to do the, this is going to be fun, the top 7 unconventional ways to play Magic, or ways to play Magic that maybe you haven't heard of before. Basically, to qualify for the list is pretty easy. You just can't be a constructed format like you can't be Commander, you can't be Standard, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, you can't be just regular booster draft or sealed, like pre-release sealed for that matter. These are just sort of the fun ways to play Magic and some ways that they can actually help improve your game, I think. So let me go ahead and get this out of the way for now. We'll come back to that later and start off with number 7 here so that you know what I'm talking about. Number 7, something that a lot of people have heard of. This is Pack Wars. Pack Wars just take a freshly cracked booster pack, which I don't have here, but do not look at it. Don't look at it. Don't see what's in there yet. Just take 3 of each basic land, like so, and then shuffle it in there real nice, which I probably don't have much time for here, but I think it'll illustrate the point pretty easily. You have a 30 card deck here. Don't do what I was just doing and reveal your cards to yourself. And then just draw 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And your friend does this with a fresh pack as well, and then you just play the game. See what you got. You know, usually mulligans aren't allowed in this, but that's okay. I got a Thornwood Falls in my pack, and you know, I got some good stuff in here. There's a Ponyback Brigade, Grizzly's okay, I guess. There's, ooh, a Debilitating Injury, that's pretty hot. Jeskai Wind Scout. So, yeah, pretty much every deck is 5 colors. But it sort of extends the life of a pack and cuts down on things like, you know, pack regret, for lack of a better term. And it takes, like, opening a booster box from a 20 or 30-minute affair to an all-night thing where you play games and have a lot of fun, and you familiarize yourself with the format and all these little sort of interactions that you otherwise wouldn't know unless you did this. You play a lot of the set and sort of see how it plays and how it might affect the format. You might even come across little things that work together that haven't quite been seen yet. Ooh, that's kind of cool too. Watcher of the Roost. Yeah, ooh, see, and there's your rare. There's all these tense situations where you're like, I can't wait to draw my rare, I can't wait to see what it is, you know. And those are really cool. It also sort of makes $1 and $2 rares go from, oh my god, that sucks that I just spent $4 on that, to like, oh, this might help me win the game now, since it might be a bomb in, you know, in this situation. So that's number 7, Pack Wars, something that a lot of people have played, but if you haven't heard of it or tried it out, then definitely play it. It's worth, you know, if you buy a pack, it's a lot better than just ripping it open and looking at it for 10 seconds and feeling like, oh, well, that wasn't worth it. So number 6 we'll move on to. Number 6 is the no land format. Like 20 years or more ago now, Duelist magazine published an article about like 2 guys that get together and they both play Magic. They both have their cards on them, but they don't have any lands. So how do you remedy that situation? Well, it's actually fairly simple. All you do is take a normal deck of cards, but with no lands. All my lands blew away, I guess. And just draw up to 7 cards. But for every card you do not draw, up to 7, you get a land. It's simple enough, right? So, in this mono-red aggro deck, I'm just going to draw 5 cards, and I have 2 lands in my hand. They can be whatever land you like them to be as you play them. That's what's cool about that. Now, that's pretty sweet right there. Swift Spear and Lightning Strike. Yeah, so I would just play them out in this turn, and then Swift Spear. But the challenge comes in, do I draw a land next turn? Or do I draw a card? Because obviously I could Lightning Strike with my other land, or I could Titan Strength my guy and scry 1. So I would probably just draw another card in that situation. And see, now I've got 2 lands. I can, boom, Titan Strength, and that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there for the swing. But the next turn I might want to draw a card. I got to play this Hordling Outburst, which allows me to play Stoke the Flames, so I'm going to want to draw a land here and forfeit my draw step for the turn effectively. And it leads to, you know, just, again, fun little games. And in a pinch, it's a really good format. You know, if you happen to have cards but no lands, or if you just want to, like, grab a chunk of cards and play with it, it's really good for that, too. It's sort of similar to Fat Stack, if you've heard of that format, where one stack is playable cards, and then the other stack is is lands and things that produce mana, like Birds of Paradise, Fellwar Stone, and stuff like that. So it's sort of similar to Fat Stack, but you don't have to have the second stack. So yeah, number 5, let's move on to that, is going to be Reject Rare Draft. Most people, I think, who have experimented with cubing have played this. And this can be one of the most fun ways that you can possibly play Magic, honestly. And it brings new life to older rares that are kind of not, known for being very good. Or cards that sort of, cards that time forgot, that maybe never got their chance to shine, and you can play with them now and think, oh, well, why did no one ever play with this, $2 rare from Visions or whatever, because they might have powerful new interactions now, but no one's seen them because no one cares about those cards. And you just, everyone contributes 45 cards, all junk rares for the most part, and you shuffle them all together and you draft 15-card booster packs like this, This is Junk Rare Draft, Mob Rule, Rally the Ancestors, there's a Bident, Icy Blast, Triad, let's see here. Ooh, Lithonia is pretty good. We got a Jeering Instigator, Dragon Style Twins, an Eater of Hope, ooh, 1,000 wins, this one's shiny. Ivory Tusk Fortress, a Polis Crusher, a Mind Swipe. So I could draft any of these. I'd probably take the Lithonia in this case, yeah, and then pass around. There's still bombs in this pack, 1,000 wins, but these are cards that are all 50 cents a piece. And, yeah, it's actually really a lot bombier of a format than regular draft, even though these are technically reject rares. But, there's still really good cards in this pack. Both Eater of Hope and Dragon Style Twins are still in there, Ivory Tusk Fortress. So, fun way to play Magic and to get more life out of that, the rest of your collection. It feels like you only play what you are currently playing in Standard and, limited games as you crack packs open. So this can be a cool way to sort of extend the life of your collection and play with cards that are fun to play with, but don't really see much Standard play, so you just don't get the opportunity to play with them so often. So number 5, Reject Rares. If you haven't tried this, then you definitely need to. I'd say it's the most highly recommended if you've never done it before of almost any of these. So Reject Rares, try it out, and anyone who's played it before knows how fun that is. Number 4 on my list is Winston Draft. If you've never heard of this, it sounds pretty fancy, but all it is, basically, is the 3 piles draft, it's sometimes called. You take a central stack of cards, like Meow, and shovel it up, whatever. And then you do 3 piles, like that. And the first player to draft looks at the first card. Only he or she looks at it and decides whether or not they want it. Let's say I don't want a Titan String. So I put the card back, and then I take a card from the stack, and I put it on top of the first card. And you proceed this way. I probably would want the Swift Spear, but just for purposes of illustration. I'm going to put a card on that. I'm going to look at this and decide I don't want it, which I probably don't anyway. I put a card there, and then if this happens, if you get this far, you just draft the card that's on top of the deck, which I guess I'd be fine with, honestly, Fanatic of Movies. Then the next player looks at every card in each stack and decides whether or not to take it. And of course, if they don't, they put another card on top. Look at the second pile, decide they want that because that's incredible. And they just put a card down. If you pick a card, you put a card down. If you pick 4 cards, you put 1 card down. So the next player would look at this stack of 3 and say, hell yes, and just put 1 card down. And as you go, stacks will get, 4 and 5 deep sometimes, especially since you mostly do this in a cube format with just crazy cards. And honestly, I think that the standard way to do Winston is kind of much maligned by a lot of people, especially pros who have played it a lot over the years. It's kind of limited. The decks aren't great towards the end because it's hard to come up with something truly cohesive. But I usually play it with 100 cards. I think the stock way of playing it is 90 cards. I feel like with 102 players, you get everything you need to really make something that works very well, that actually curves, and you get all the stuff you need. It becomes harder to cut cards, but that actually I think is another thing that's skill intensive that people need to learn, is how to cut cards and evaluate them. for whatever deck you're building. And Winston, I think, helps with a lot of different things, not only evaluating cards, but counter drafting, hate drafting, and figuring out what your opponent is playing. So it can be a very valuable skill to learn, and Winston can help do that. Winston is probably the thing on this list that I've done the most, and I still have a lot of fun with it. So that's number 4, Winston draft. Number 3, we're in the top 3, is the grid. The grid is really fun. It's kind of similar to Winston in that what you would do is you would make a 3x3 grid of cards that both players can see at all times. Like, meow. Right, meow. See, the first player to draft is going to take either a line, a row, or a column. It can be any row or column. If they want the middle column, that's fine, the middle row. But the second player is left drafting whatever they didn't draft in another row or column. So let's say I want this one, I guess, the middle column. So the second player that drafts here will either take a row of 2 cards or a column of 3 cards. In this case, probably do this column. Don't ask me why the dragons are ages in this mono red aggro. I'm just kind of testing it right now. I don't think it's going to be very good, but there's just the one copy right now. But you would proceed like that. The next grid that you make, of course, the other player would go first, so there's never an inherent advantage. And the grid can be another really good way to learn how to hate draft, because you can see exactly what your opponent is drafting at all times. You know what you missed, and your opponent knows what you have too. And it can be a really interesting way to measure the sort of balance between, do I take something good for my deck, or do I hate draft that thing that he really needs? And it can really be an aid to sort of learning the game in a lot of ways. And grid draft is just fun. It's another way to just to get life out of cards that you rarely use, and just create your own little limited formats. Kind of like cube, but it's another way to cube draft besides doing the 15 card packs thing. Number 2 is hilarious. It's probably the funniest way to play Magic, and that is backdraft. You may have heard of backdraft. It is a format where you draft, just like normal. You get a 15 card pack, and let's say this is my 15 card pack right here. You draft like normal, except that you take the worst card out of the pack. Doomblade, 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 Doomblade. Yes. Angelic Accord. That's what you would want to draft in that situation. So you're drafting the worst cards out of each pack. And what happens after you build your deck is you sit down across from your opponent and you trade decks with him or her. And you play against the deck that you drafted. So you're basically just trying to draft all the absolute worst stuff out of each pack and just make the most atrocious deck that you can possibly think of. And this can be a really, really fun way to play, especially out of a box. It can be great because it keeps people from just automatically drafting the bomb rares and stuff like that. This is a really, really recommendable, fun format to play. If you've never tried Backdraft, it ends friendships. It's like Mario Party in that it's really fun, but someone at the end of the night will not like you as much as they did at the beginning of the night. But try Backdraft. It's for a special kind of evil person Magic player. So that brings us to number 1. Number 1 is called Mental Magic. Not many people have heard of this, but it is very old. Mental Magic is just the practice of taking any chunk of cards really from your collection. Doesn't matter if it's color sorted or not either. It could even be alphabetized. It doesn't matter how sorted the collection is. You just take it. Usually this is played, you draw from a central pile, but both players can have decks if you want to. Draw 7 from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you see, it's not supposed to have lands, but that's okay. This is pretty, I can illustrate this. Okay, so I have a Sultai, Ascendancy, a Watcher of the Roost, and I have a Disowned Ancestor. What that means in Mental Magic is that I have 2 3 casting cost cards and 1 1 casting cost card. And these can be any card in the history of Magic that has those converted mana costs. So, you know, if I had a 4 or a 5 in my hand, I could play, you know, War Leader's Helix, or the 5 could be Maloku the Clouded Mirror, but it wouldn't matter. You know, any 5 mana card could be Baneslayer or Stormbreath Dragon. Any 2 mana card could be Counterspell or Incinerate. Any 1 mana card could be Path to Exile or Birds of Paradise. You know, it really just matters. It depends on the situation, and you have to remember what your opponents have played that game. You can always ask them, you know, what is that 3-drop there? Or what is that 4-mana spell that you're playing? What exactly does it do? But it rewards greatly knowledge of the game, and it fosters knowledge of the game, because as you play with people, you'll learn about cards that they know, and they'll learn about cards that you know that they didn't know about. And it's really, really fun. And if you've been playing for a while, especially, or if you're trying to learn the vast base of cards available in MTG, this is a great way to sort of, you know, it's a breath of fresh air. It's a fun way to learn about cards, because you're going to hear about a lot of stuff you haven't heard of. And at the same time, it makes you feel really smart by saying, oh, I could play Kakusho right now, and that would be awesome. Or, oh, this 1-drop would be awesome as a Llanowar Elf, or, you know, a Figure of Destiny right now, and figuring out exactly what you need to do. This X spell could be anything, you know. This X spell doesn't have to be Fireball. And there's just a lot of really cool interactions that go on in Mental Magic, and I know I'm sort of gushing about it, but this is a really, really fun way to play. And also, it doesn't matter what cards you own. They can be whatever card you want them to be. Your Ornithopter, knock yourself out. It's now a Black Lotus. It's now a Mox, you know, whatever. You know, your 1-mana mirror is now what, it's Scroll Rack, you know. So this is a really good way not only to learn about the game, but sort of flex your brain muscles outside of the way you normally do when you play the game, and look at a lot of different situations. So I highly recommend Mental Magic. I think that's going to do it for us, actually, right there. That was the top 7 unconventional ways to play Magic. Number 7 is Pack Wars. Number 6, the No Land format. Number 5 was Reject Rares. Number 4 is Winston Draft, or 3 piles. Number 3 is the Grid, the 3x3 grid. Number 2 is Backdraft, where you draft the worst thing possible and then give it to your opponent. And number 1 is Mental Magic, where pretty much any card of any casting cost can be any other card of that same casting cost. Try that out as soon as you can. Well, guys, thanks for coming around again. Appreciate that. Remember, if you like this content, just like, share. That does us a lot of good. Subscribe does us even more good. You can comment. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. It takes like 2 seconds to hit the like button, and that does us a lot. Subscribe for more content, because I'm always coming up with new stuff. I'm trying to get a little better at this, so bear with me. And again, apologize for the sort of long length, but I really like doing these top 7. So I'll see you guys next time. I got a couple more ideas. And again, Dragons of Tarkir is coming up soon. So check out our Dragons of Tarkir speculation video on our channel, and a couple other things. I've got a video about what it's like to play Magic for 20 years, and other top 7 videos, so check those out. Appreciate you guys. I'm Devin from SBMTG, and I'll see you next time.